welcome back to Kardec Radio for Teens. I'm Bia, and for those of you who don't know, Kardec Radio for Teens is a place where teens can come together and talk with teens about spiritist topics and teachings. This is the 30th Kardec Radio for Teens show, and I'm so excited and proud of that because I feel like it's gone by so fast, but at the same time, we're up to 30 already, which is amazing, 30 weeks. We have now been getting into the habit of reading the Spirits book together, going through each question piece by piece and making sure we understand it and put it in terms that are maybe a little easier for us to understand than these adults who wrote it years ago. So last week we read chapter 1, so this week we're on to chapter 2, the general elements of the universe. And in chapter 2 there's 4 different parts. There's the knowledge of the origin of things, spirits and matter, the properties of matter, and universal space. So let's just get right to it and go into the first part of chapter 2, the knowledge of the origin of things. Just to clarify, in case some of you missed it last week, the way that this book is arranged is that there's a question that was asked to the spirits, and then the answer is the spirits' answer, and then sometimes there's a little input or a little side note from Kardec, and then those are all separated. So in the book, the question is in italics, the spirit's answer is in quotes, and then Kardec's answer is in smaller font. So we're able to distinguish which is which. And I'll let you guys know what is when it's the spirit's answering or Kardec's answering. But all the answers are the spirit's answer unless stated that Kardec put an additional comment in it. So chapter 2 starts off with question 17. Can humans know the origin of things? The spirits answered, no. On earth, God does not allow everything to be revealed to them. So here they pretty much gave the answer very simply, but they were asking, can humans know how everything began? And they said that God does not allow everything to be revealed. So God doesn't let us know everything, doesn't let us discover everything possibly that there is to discover. There's always something more that God's not letting us discover yet. When it's time for us to know, we'll be able to know, but not yet. Question 18. Will they ever be able to grasp the mystery of things now hidden from them? The spirits answered, the veil is lifted as they become more and more purified, but in order to understand certain things, they need faculties they do not yet have. So here the question is, since we don't know everything right now, and we were not able to know everything right now, will we be able to understand it eventually? The things that we don't know now, are we going to be able to understand them eventually at one point? And the Spirit's saying that the more and more you learn, the more you become purified, more evolved, better. So the better you are, the more evolved you're getting, you'll be able to know, little by little, you'll be able to know more and more and more. But some stuff we don't have the facilities to understand yet. We won't be able to understand on this earth, even if we're getting better and better and better. But we will start to learn little and little and little more each time that we get better and better as we progress. Question 19. Can't humans grasp some of nature's secrets through scientific investigation? The spirits answered, science has been given to them for their advancement in all matter, but they cannot go beyond the limits set by God. So the question was, since they were saying how before God doesn't allow us to know everything that possibly happened, they're saying, but can't we know some of the secrets through science, through what we learn in a scientific way? And they're saying, yeah, but God is permitting you to learn those things through science. The stuff that God isn't permitting you to know yet, you can't know, even with science. So what we know with science, God is allowing us to know that. But what we still haven't understood through science is because maybe God isn't letting us at this time to understand that stuff. No matter if it's through science or whatever it could be. When it says we cannot go beyond the limits set by God. So God set, it's like your parents. Your parents set the rules. You can't go beyond that. You can't just find a little hole to go through it. God sets the rules, and those are the rules. You might have other ideas, and you might try to use science to try and get there, but still, God's rules are his rules. What he set is set. And then Kardec elaborates on this answer from the spirits. The more humans are allowed to grasp such mysteries, the more they should admire the power and wisdom of the Creator. However, whether through pride or through weakness, their own minds often render them victims of illusions, and they pile theory upon theory. Every day they see how many errors they have mistaken for truths, and how many truths they have dismissed as errors. These realizations are further blows into their pride. So here again, he's just adding on to the fact that humans, that we try and grasp these mysteries, but sometimes we just can't understand it because we find errors, we find so many errors in it, because God is the supreme, the just, he's everything. So how are we trying to compete to that? How are we trying to know everything that he's knowing? So scientists, we find so many errors and so many little mistakes while trying to discover everything that God knows. Question 20. Outside the realm of scientific investigation, can humans receive communications of a higher order regarding matter that goes beyond the scope of their sense? Yes, if God deemed it useful. God will reveal what science cannot detect. And then Allan Kardec includes, it is through such communications that humans can, to a certain degree, know about their past and their future destiny. So here they ask, can we get, even if it's not through scientific investigation, can we get information from higher order spirits? And the spirit said, yeah, if God sees it, if it's useful. If God thinks that we should know something, and an easy way for us to learn that, or the right way for us to learn that would be through a communication with the spirit, then that's what will happen. If God wants us to know that from the spirits, then we'll know that from the spirits. And then what Allan Kardec says is that humans can, to a certain degree, know about their past and their future because of the higher order spirits, because God allows the higher order spirits to tell us that information. And now we're on to part 2 of chapter 2, which is Spirit and Matter. Question 21. Is matter eternal like God, or was it created at some specific time in the past? And the spirits answered, only God knows. Nevertheless, there is something you should realize by using your reason. God, the very personification of love and charity, has never been inactive. No matter how long ago you might imagine the one set of the divine actions to have been, could you possibly conceive of God as ever being idle for even 1 second? So here they're asking if matter is eternal like God, like it just always was, or if matter was created at a certain point in time. And basically, the simplest thing they said is that only God knows. We don't have the answer to that because we weren't around in God's time, and maybe that's one of the parts of information that God doesn't want us to know right at this very moment. So only God knows is basically the answer to the question. But they do go on to elaborate, the spirits that is, they do go on to elaborate and try and just give you a little hint. They give you a little question. They said that if God was never inactive, God has always been, then no matter how long you think back of God, do you ever imagine that for 1 second that he was idle, that he wasn't doing anything? So that's just a question that they kind of give you to think about, but they're not going to tell you because only God knows, and that's probably one of the questions that God doesn't want us to know quite yet. Question 22. Matter is generally defined as that which has extension, that which can impress our senses, that which is impenetrable. Are these definitions correct? The Spirit said, from your own point of view, they are correct, because you can only talk about matter that is familiar to you. Matter, however, also exists in states that are unfamiliar. For example, it may be so ethereal and subtle that your senses cannot detect it, and it is matter nonetheless, even though you do not perceive it as such. So here what they're saying, the question was, they gave definitions of matter, and they say, are these definitions correct? And the spirits say, from what you think and what you know and your point of view, it is correct. But since we're human beings and we're so materialized and on this earth, then there's so much that we don't know yet, that there's so much more. To our opinion, it's correct, but there's more that we're not familiar with, that we don't know. Matter in different states, they're saying, that are unfamiliar. So the way we describe matter is correct, but in our own way. There's much more to it that we don't know yet. And then they have a little second question that they add. Then how may we define matter? The spirits answered, matter is the tie that enchains spirit. It is the instrument that spirit use, and upon which it is simultaneously exerts its action. And then Kardec put a little comment. He said, from this viewpoint, one could say that matter is the agent or intermediary that enables spirits to act while at the same time being acted upon by spirit. So here they're kind of giving the definition of matter to saying that matter is what the spirit uses to be able to act and to do stuff, but at the same time, matter is something that acts upon the spirit. And then question 23. What is spirit? And the answer is quite simple. They say, the intelligent principle of the universe. And then they ask a second little sub-question, so 23b, what is the spirit's innermost nature? The spirits answered, it is not easy to explain spirit in your language. For you, it is nothing because it is nothing something palpable. Nevertheless, for us it is something. You must realize that nothing means nothing, and nothing does not exist. So here the spirits are kind of giving a little tongue twister, and so they're saying, what is the nature of spirit? What is the innermost nature? And they say that it's not easy to explain in your language, which is because, like they were saying before, we don't have as much knowledge, and we don't have a way to describe things that truly represents everything. So they're saying that it's not easy to explain to us. And then they say for us, it's nothing, because it's something that we don't understand. So it's nothing to us because we can't understand it yet. We can't comprehend exactly what it is. But for the spirits, they're saying it's something. And then they say, you must realize that nothing means nothing, and nothing does not exist. So they're saying that nothing, that there's not such a word as nothing. There's always something, which is kind of confusing. They're kind of twisting your brain a little. But what they're trying to say is that nothing does not exist. So there must be a cause. There must be something behind it. There can't just be nothing. Question 24. Is spirit synonymous with intelligence? The spirits answered, intelligence is one of the essential attributes of spirit, but both merge into a common principle. Thus, for you, they are one and the same. So they start off by saying that they're not exactly the same, spirit and intelligence, because they're saying that intelligence is one of the essential attributes of spirit. So it's like, for a person, maybe you're intelligent, but that doesn't mean you and intelligent are the same thing. But they say they merge into a common principle. So for our definitions, they are the same thing. So the way we understand it, spirit and intelligence would be the same thing. But there is much more into it that kind of sets it apart. Question 25. Is spirit independent of matter, or is it only a property of matter? As colors are properties of light, and as sound is a property of air. The spirits answered, they are distinct from each other, but the union of spirit and matter is necessary to enable matter to act intelligently. So here they're asking, are spirit and matter two separate, completely separate things, or is spirit just a property of matter? Just like the colors that we see, it's just a property of light, and that the sound we hear is just a property of the air. So are they saying, are they kind of connected, or they're just completely separate things? And the spirits answered, they are distinct from each other, but the union of spirit and matter is necessary. So they're saying that they are two separate things. You can't say that they are the same thing, but it's necessary for them to act together to be able to have intelligence. And then there's a follow-up question that says, is this union equally necessary for the manifestation of spirit? And the spirits answered, for you it is necessary, because you are not built to perceive spirit apart from matter. Your senses are not formed to do so. So again, they're kind of saying that for us, it would be necessary. It would make sense that the union is equally necessary, because we're not built to perceive that spirit and matter, that they can be two different things, that they're apart from each other. So that they're saying that, again, they're saying that we don't have kind of way to describe it. We don't have enough knowledge yet to fully understand that question. Which is kind of hard sometimes, because we're reading all these questions and they're like, oh, you can't know that yet. And it's like, why not? Just tell me, right? But it all comes with time. There's a reason for why we can and can't know things yet. And then there's a little side comment that says, in this section, we understand spirit to mean the intelligent principle rather than the entities designated by the name. So that's really important for us to understand, because they're saying that it's two different things. Because when we're talking about spirit, we might be thinking that the spirits that we imagine, okay, the medium is talking to a spirit, but they're not saying it in that term. They're not saying the spirit like a body spirit. They're saying just the principle of intelligence, a spirit. They're saying that it's the intelligent principle, not the specific, oh, this is one spirit, this is another spirit, this is one. They're saying it as just the whole principle as a whole. So that's really important for us to clarify before we continue. Question 26. Can we conceive of spirit apart from matter and matter apart from spirit? Absolutely, through thought. So here they're saying, can we imagine spirit separate from matter and matter separate from spirit? And they said, yeah, of course, through your thought you can do that. Question 27. So are there two general elements in the universe, matter and spirit? The spirits answered, yes, and over everything is God, the creator and author of all. These three elements comprise the principles of all that exists. They are the universal trinity. However, to the element of matter must be added the universal fluid. And then it goes on to a little footnote at the bottom of the page, so we'll read it. The universal cosmic fluid is the primitive elementary matter, whose modifications and transformations comprise the innumerable varieties of bodies found in nature. So here, this whole thing about the universal fluid gets a little complicated, so I don't want to get too in-depth in it. But basically, they're saying that within matter, the primary thing that we go back to, because right now, in very simple terms, we think, okay, inside of something there's an atom, and inside of the atom there's a nucleus. Well, they're saying that if you go back to the very, very primitive element, like the first thing, the elementary matter, that would be the universal fluid. So if we're going past the atoms, past the neutrons, past the nucleus, past everything like that, then all the way in the beginning we'll find the universal fluid, which is what they're saying here. So the spirit said, yeah, the two general elements of the universe are matter and spirit, and of course God. So there are three elements. The three principal things are matter, spirit, and God. But now they were going on to how in matter we must add the universal fluid. So let's continue from where they left off in the answer. However, to the element of matter we must add the universal fluid, which plays an intermediate role between spirit and matter per se, since matter is too dense for spirit to act upon it directly. Although from a certain point of view this fluid may be regarded as part of the material element, it differs from it due to special properties. If it were simply matter, there would be no reason for spirits not to be matter too. It is placed between spirit and matter, yet it is a fluid, just as matter is matter. It is in its countless combinations with matter, and under the direction of spirits, it is capable of producing an infinite variety of things about which you still know very, very little. By being the agent upon which spirits act, the universal, primitive, or elementary fluid is the principle without which matter would forever remain in a state of dispersion, and it would never acquire properties given to it by gravitation. So here again they're saying how we know very, very little about the universal fluid and everything to go with it, but they're basically saying that that's the primitive thing that basically holds everything together, holds the spirit and matter, lets everything that happens happen. And it's all, so they're saying basically it's what holds everything together, it's what makes everything happen, is this principle universal fluid. And if we just think about this, that they're saying that we know very, very little about it, and this little bit of information that we know that they're trying to explain to us is so complicated. Imagine all the rest that there is to know about it, all the rest that there is to know in the universe. If the very little part of the universal fluid that they're explaining is complicated, imagine everything else that goes with it. And then a sub-question to question 27. Might this fluid be what we call electricity? The spirits answered, we have stated that it is capable of countless combinations. What you call the electric and magnetic fluids are both modifications of the one universal fluid. Properly speaking, this fluid is a perfect and sublunar matter that may be considered as being independent of matter per se. So they're saying, is this fluid that you're calling, is it what we call electricity? And they're saying that they said that there's countless combinations that form it into countless different things. So what we call electric and magnetic fluids are both part of the one universal fluid. And they're saying, so there's countless, there's so many possibilities and so many different types of fluids that are created, but they all go back to this one universal fluid. Question 28. Since spirit is something in and of itself, wouldn't it be clearer and less subject to confusion to label those two general elements as inert matter and intelligent matter? The spirit said, words do not matter much to us. It is up to you to formulate your language in a way that you can understand one another. The disputes among you almost always arise because you cannot agree on the meaning of the words you use. Your language is incomplete regarding things that do not touch your senses. So here they're saying that if spirit is one thing, wouldn't it be easier to say inert matter and intelligent matter? And the spirits basically answer, they're like, do whatever you want, because to us that doesn't matter. We're telling you the information, and that the way that you talk about it, the way you guys talk, your language, it's so primitive and we don't have enough words to explain anything. So the way that we can communicate and we'll all understand one another is the best way. So they're saying whichever way you can do that, that's good. Because they're saying disputes among words that we use, because there's so many words that we use and two people are thinking of a different concept completely, and then we get all angry and we get into disagreements and disputes. So that's where they're saying that our language is incomplete and there's stuff that we can't describe and we need better words for it, basically. But they're saying that the best way would be a way that we can understand one another clearly. And then Kardec has a little added part. One obvious fact dominates all theories. We see matter, which is not intelligent, and we see an intelligent principle that is independent of matter. Nonetheless, the origin of and connection between these two are unknown to us. Whether they have a common origin and necessary point of contact between them, and whether intelligence and its own independent existence, or is a property or a fact, as some claim, or even whether it is an enmity of the divinity, all this is unknown to us. Matter and intelligence are distinct, as far as we are concerned. Thus, we regard them as being two principles comprising the universe. Above these, however, we see an intelligence dominating and governing all others. It differs from them due to the essential attributes. It is the supreme intelligence that we call God. So here what they're saying is that basically we're not capable of understanding any of this yet, whether what's connecting it, what's truly the principle of all things. We're not capable of knowing that yet. It's not our time to know that. We're not supposed to know that yet. Eventually we will, but right now it's not for us to know. But what we do know is that there's two things, matter and intelligence, which are two separate things, matter and intelligence, and they're the two principles that comprise the universe, everything in the universe. And then the thing that's above everything, the matter and intelligence makes up everything, and the thing that makes up that is God. So it's like a little pyramid if you think about it. God's on top, and then matter, intelligence, and then everything else goes from that. So that's what's important to get from this, because it does get really confusing with the fluid and what is what, because we can't define it in our words. And they're saying that we don't have the knowledge yet to know that. But what we do know is that God is on top of all things, and then there's matter, and then there's intelligence, which are two separate things that comprise everything in the universe. So that's the really important part that I hope we were able to get out of today. So that was the end of part 2 of chapter 2. So we'll do part 3 and part 4 of chapter 2 next week. But just to end off today, I'd like to read the message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations for today's date, November 8th. The title of it is Wanting Things. I do not read advertisements. I would spend all my time wanting things. We live surrounded by things, electronic devices, appliances, clothing, books, music, pictures, furniture, utensils, tools, knickknacks of all sorts. Yet most of us crave more, and when we get more, we want even more. We're bombarded with messages telling us that we're not complete until we have that thing or this thing, and more of these things or newer versions of those things. It takes a strong will to resist the pressure to consume. I do not need more things to make myself happy. Can I spend a week without buying a new thing? A month? Longer? Hopefully we can take what we learned today throughout the Spirit's book and in this last little message throughout the week, and as the holiday seasons approach, this is a good thing about wanting things. I hope you all have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you back here next week. I'm Bia, and this is Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.